TV1 රැස්විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ
පල්ලගන්න
මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර
Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News here on Newsfirst, where the people come first. You're joining me, Naveksha Gunasekara. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines.
Premalal Jayasekara and two others who were convicted of murder and sentenced to death acquitted and released. Midwives on strike, protest at the Health Ministry. Long-distance private bus services hampered by fuel shortage. CEB requests for patience until alternatives can be provided. Stock market trading restricted. India working overtime to ensure swift assistance to Sri Lanka, says External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. Pakistan's Imran Khan is fighting for his political career.
News First with the people.
In your top story this afternoon, the fuel crisis remains unresolved, and as a result, long queues at filling stations were seen across the island. Now, tense situations were reported at filling stations in several areas as well. Tense situations were reported at filling stations in several areas in the country. Such a situation was reported at the Kohola filling station last night. This was after the distribution of diesel in cans at the filling station was suddenly suspended.
They were distributing it in cans a while ago, but now they want us to bring a letter from the CPC. How can we do that?
The police had intervened in the matter and it was decided to distribute diesel cans priced below 2,000 rupees.
මේක මාර දුකක් වෙන්නේ උදේ ඉඳලා අවසනක පොලිමේ අපිට ජීවත් වෙන විදියක් නැහැ ළමයි බඩගින්නේ අඬනවා.
Vehicular movement in the Kandy town was hampered due to the long queues to purchase fuel.
The minister said the issue will be resolved by Saturday. They will not do this in this lifetime.
Long queues were seen in the Anuradhapura town, although diesel was not available at filling stations in the area.
They must resign if they can't do their job. This is greed for money and power.
Long queues were seen to obtain kerosene in several areas across the country. A tense situation arose opposite the kerosene distribution centre in Mavanala this morning. The people waiting in the queue were not able to obtain kerosene due to the power cut, causing the kerosene pumping machine to stop working. The group then gathered on the Mavanala Hemmatagama road to protest.
පොඩ්ඩක් අපිට විශ්වාස වදාරන්න එන මේලයි. හරිද? පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා අපි බලලා බලමු දැන් ඊයේ මාසේ කතා කරලා බුලන්දර එක්කම ලයිට් අරන් දෙන්න කියලා.
Long queues for kerosene was seen in Pittakote this morning as well.
තොරන්ට ඡන්දය දුන්න මිනිස්සු ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සු ටික.
ඉතින් ගෑස් පොලිමේ අද ඉන්න බෝම්ටෙල් පොලිමේ සැප තමයි.
ඔකට දාන්න ඕන ඉගෙන ගත්ත කොල්ලෝ ඉන්න මේවට තරුණ උන් ඉන්න.
The people in Batapola Gaol have been waiting in long queues for kerosene since this morning. Long-distance bus operations have been hampered due to a shortage of diesel. President of the Ceylon Private Bus Owners Association, Gamunu Wijayaratna, said 75% of long-distance bus operations have been suspended.
This is the situation at the Peta bus stand that was crowded not too long ago.
අද දුවන අද ගිහලා හිටින්න විදියක් නෑ ඩීසල් නෑ බස් පාක් යන එක මාත්‍රම දැන් එක බස් එක යන්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ මිනිස්සුలు ඩීසල් නැතුව බොහොම අන්තිම අර්ථාසන්න වැඩලා ඉන්න.
The shortage of diesel has affected the transportation of students as well. The Association of Container Transporters says the transportation of containers has dropped by 30% due to the shortage of diesel. Chairperson of the association, Sanat Manjula, said discussions with the Secretary of the Ministry of Ports and Shipping were unsuccessful. The Railways Department said the fuel shortage has, however, not hampered the operation of trains. The department said trains will operate as per the schedule today.
The gas crisis in the country remains unresolved. This was the situation in the Balapitiya town today. A protest was staged in the Balapitiya section along the Gaol-Colombo main road. The police had intervened in the distribution of gas cylinders at gas dealerships in the Ambalangoda town. Long queues to purchase gas cylinders were seen in Badulla this morning. A tense situation was reported when the police intervened in the distribution process. Long queues to purchase gas cylinders were seen in Hikkadua as well. It is everyone's wish to bid farewell to their loved ones with the utmost respect. But now there is a report from Jayala Kapuatta that the funerals are to be held using the token system. Attempts by relatives to cremate the deceased at the Jayala Kapuatta cemetery failed due to a power outage.
They're asking us to take the body out until we find a generator, or we are supposed to wait till midnight for power to come back.
Later, relatives found a generator and performed the last rites. A ritual organized by the Gamunu Farmers Association was held in Ipalogama, Kunchikulama area in Anuradhapura yesterday, urging the government to find a quick solution to the current crisis. Member of Parliament Premalal Jayasekar alias Choka Manli and two others who were convicted and sentenced to death for murder were acquitted and released by the Court of Appeal today. The Court of Appeal issued the order after considering the appeal filed by the convict seeking to make null the death sentence imposed by the Ratnapura High Court.
The Court of Appeal noted that the trial at the Ratnapura High Court had failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the three men were in possession of a weapon or carried out a shooting. Thereby, an order was made to acquit and release them. The order was made by Court of Appeal Justices Nissanka Bandula Karunaratne and R. Gurusingha. Appeals were filed by Premalal Jayasekara, ex-Provincial Council member Nilanta Jayasinghe and ex-Kahawata Pradesh Sabha Chairman Wajra Darshan, requesting that the death sentences imposed on them by the Ratnapura High Court be made null and they be released and acquitted from all the indictments. On the 31st of July 2020, the trio was sentenced to death by the Ratnapura High Court on the indictments of shooting dead one person and injuring two others during the run-up to the 2015 presidential election in Kahawata, Ratnapura. They were convicted of causing damage to an election propaganda campaign and shooting dead a person identified as Shanta Dodangoda. They filed appeals challenging the death sentence, noting that the verdict by the Ratnapura High Court was flawed. Premalal Jayasekara and the two other convicted men had filed petitions with the Court of Appeal, citing that the manner in which the death sentence was imposed was in violation of the law, and they be acquitted and released.
In more headline-making news, a group of Family Health Service officers are currently engaged in a protest opposite the Ministry of Health. Our correspondent stated that a traffic congestion is building up along the road opposite of the ministry. The Government Family Health Officers Association has commenced this protest in line with the strike that began today. Its chairperson Devika Kodituaku stated that the strike was launched against the decision taken to abolish the post of Special Grade Family Health Service. She stated that a satyagraha was launched in front of the Ministry of Health today. Sri Lanka is not only in its worst economic situation, but is also entering the worst of times with extended power cuts. Today, power cuts will last for 13 hours, and the outages that are taking place out of the fixed schedule have severely affected the lives of hundreds of thousands.
The brass industry in the Kandy district is facing a crisis situation due to the extended power cuts, and industrials say they are not able to engage in their trade.
A to A කියනවා B කියනවා C කියනවා කවුද යකෝ කලාපේ දන්නේ දන්නේ කාට කියන්නේ කියපන් හරියට මධ්‍යම බලද්ද නැත්නම් මහානෝදේශිකද කියලා.
වරික අද උදේ ආවිලා 8 ඉඳගත්තා. ඉඳගත්තන් පස්සේ ලයිට් ගියා. ලයිට් ගියන් පස්සේ දැන් ඒ සේවකයෝ ගියා. නම් සේවකයන් සල්ලි දෙන්න ඕන. විදුලිය කැපුවා කියලා ලයිට් කැපුවා කියලා සේවකයන්ට පඩිනේ දෙන්න බෑ. නැත්නම් මේ මිනිස්සු අනාථ වෙනවා.
A press conference was held in Colombo today to explain the current power crisis.
We are forced to go for power outages because we cannot generate electricity to meet the demand. We cannot generate power of 300 megawatts from hydro power plants. We require 800 megawatts from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily from hydro power plants. We cannot provide that. We require 1,100 megawatts from thermal power plants, and that too is difficult for us due to the shortage of fuel. However, as the coal power plants are operating continuously, we are depending on them today. Yet, if we receive fuel continuously, we can opt out of power outages. This is the reality.
Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board said power generation from the Samanala River and Castlereagh reservoirs will be stopped from tomorrow. The general manager of the CEB, DCR Abhisekar, said the water levels in those reservoirs will not be sufficient to generate electricity from tomorrow. The water level in Castlereagh reservoir was 8.4% yesterday, and the water level in Samanala River had dropped to 11.8%. The general manager of the CEB said the water capacity of Mausakale had decreased to 27.8%, Kothmale to 20.6%, Victoria Reservoir to 30%, and Randhanigala Reservoir to 58%.
Issues have arisen with regard to mobile and internet connectivity as a result of the extended power cuts. This is due to the unavailability of diesel for the generators during the power outages at the signal towers. As a result, the signal towers are inactive. Several issues have also arisen, including access to internet services in the respective coverage areas. Secretary to the Ministry of Technology, Jayant De Silva, said a program has been initiated to supply diesel to every signal tower.
Sri Lanka's stock market is restricting trading to 2 hours from the usual 4.5 hours for the rest of the week due to the prolonged power cuts in the crisis-hit country. The Colombo Stock Exchange said the decision to limit trading from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. local time was taken at the request of stockbrokers. It added that the pre-open session will be from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. The auction will open at 10:30 a.m. and the regular trading will open at the same time. The market will close, however, at 12:30 p.m. Moving on to more local news, operations at several tea factories have been suspended due to the shortage of diesel. Estate authorities said although it was planned to use generators during power cuts, that was not possible due to the shortage of diesel.
The managers of the tea factories said there were complications in the production process due to the shortage of diesel and continuous power cuts. Speaking to News First, Secretary to the Ministry of Plantation Industries, Ravindra Hevavitarana said steps will be taken to distribute fuel to the tea industry under a special system following discussions with the CPC. He said several discussions regarding the matter have been held.
Moving on to more headline-making news, the debate on the no-confidence motion to remove Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan from his office will begin today. The vote on the no-confidence will be taken up on the 3rd of April.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan is facing arguably the biggest challenge of his political career as the opposition seeks to remove him from his office in a vote of no confidence. The country's lawmakers will convene today to begin debating the motion. A simple majority of 172 in the 342-seat National Assembly against Imran Khan would cut short his tenure as Prime Minister. Yesterday, the number was breached when his main coalition ally, the MQM, joined the opposition. It means on paper the opposition now commands 175 votes to the government's 164.
The US denied reports of any specific message being delivered to Pakistan's then ambassador to the United States and said that no US government agency had sent a letter to Pakistan on the current political situation in the country. While responding to the question regarding the alleged letter and US involvement in a no-confidence motion against Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, a State Department spokesperson said there is no truth to these allegations. Prime Minister Imran Khan has said that a Pakistani envoy posted in a foreign country wrote the memo that he flashed on the 27th of March in a rally and termed it threatening. The Premier, while interacting with journalists, said the envoy had sent the letter to Pakistan after he met an official of a foreign country. PM Imran Khan said the memo was shared with the military leadership, according to sources, and mentioned that the tone used in the cable was threatening. Moving on to more local news, former Minister Athauda Senamiratne passed away this morning. He was being treated at a private hospital in Colombo. He was 90 years old at the time of his demise. Athauda Senamiratne entered politics from the Lanka Sama Samaja Party and was later elected to the parliament representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He was the Kegol district leader of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party for a long time and was a senior politician who held various portfolios including labour, youth affairs and mineral resources development. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that the Indian system is working overtime to expedite its assistance to Sri Lanka.
Briefing Colombo-based Indian journalists ahead of his departure to New Delhi, the Indian External Affairs Minister said the timing is key for Sri Lanka as it tries to cope with a grave economic crisis. He said that given Sri Lanka's present situation, things cannot be done at a normal pace. He said that everything must be fast-tracked and that the Indian system is working overtime, adding that the recently finalized Indian credit line of $1 billion for essential imports would be operationalized very soon. The Indian External Affairs Minister had noted that he cannot remember the last time India stepped up like this for any country. Dr. Jaishankar said the Indian government does not get into private sector investment in Sri Lanka and that the development of the Trincomalee farms is based on an intergovernmental understanding.
Power cuts in certain areas will mean that many News First viewers could miss the primetime English bulletin on TV1 at 9 p.m. we have decided to repeat our news bulletin at 12 midnight and at 6:30 a.m. the following day on TV1 to help you stay updated. You can catch all our news bulletins online on the News First Facebook page and YouTube channel. News First, where the people come first.
News First with the people.
And that's a wrap of lunchtime news here on News First, where the people come first. You can always log on to our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk, for all these stories and much more. Do take care and stay safe.